Howdy, howdy. We'll see how long I can last. My voice is, it might give out, so you never know. It's just a cold, it'll go away. The unfortunate part is that I have some friends who are coming into town today and I don't want to get them sick, so I'm not going to go see them today. That's the downside. But, you know, I'm not so brain foggy, so can't really be upset about that. Anyway, make sure to like the live so we can get more people in here, and then we'll get started. Oh, I should open up my this one. Oops, not that one. Here we go. All right, should be good to go. Yeah, you like, one of my friends is immunocompromised. I don't want to risk his health, so. Anyway, we'll give it some time, let people trickle in. How's my computer? Were you ever able to enable virtualization? No, I haven't, and I haven't made an effort to because it turns out I didn't need it. Yes, I did just start. You'd rather not see me in heaven? That seems kind of hateful. Well, there was some software that I did need it from, but it turns out I don't need to use that software. Well, I mean, if you want to see someone be tortured for eternity, that's kind of messed up, right? Like, it's hateful because I know what you believe, and your belief implies that you would rather me be in hell, right? That's kind of the implication there. Rick, how's it going?
Hello, shalom, my friend.
Howdy.
How's it going?
I'm doing all right. Do you believe in God?
Yes, sir, I do. I am a Torah observant Christian.
Okay. And would you say that, what would you say is the most compelling evidence that the God that you believe in exists? The most compelling reason?
Well, specifically, Yahweh, the God that I believe in, the most compelling evidence would be Jabal al-Laz, which is Mount Sinai in northwest Saudi Arabia, where it has the burnt tip at the top. I'm sure you've probably seen it at some point or another.
Yeah. Why do all of the mountains in that area have that?
It's not all the mountains, it's just the one.
No, they all do. Oh, they all have the black top. I can show you a picture.
All right, go ahead, show me a picture. I like the background, by the way. I like the galaxies and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great. Actually, so let's pull it up right here. Yeah, here's a picture. Oops, where'd it go? Why did it change? Oh, what? Oh, it's a slideshow, that's why. Okay, one sec, I just have to open up this specific picture. Yeah, so here's an example. I don't know if you can see this. But so you're referring to this mountain, right? Yeah. That mountain. But that mountain over there, on the right, also has the black top.
That doesn't look like the mountain that I'm referring to.
Oh, so then here's another mountain with a black top that isn't the mountain that you're referring to. It seems like having a black top is actually like a normal, natural thing, depending on the geology, if there's multiple.
Well, how do you explain the split rock? How do you explain the 70 palms and 12 wells? How do you explain the massive graveyard that is near that area? How do you
If you
explain
want,
all these other
do you want to go?
finds?
Do you want to go one at a time? We can go one at a time if you want.
Yeah, I mean that's fine, but I mean like there's like so many finds that completely equate to the Book of Exodus, not just the black top, but many other
So,
things that are equated to that area.
if what was stated in the Book of Exodus is true, why wouldn't we have evidence of 2 million people wandering around the desert for 40 years? Like, where's all the pottery? Where's all the pottery works? Where's all of like the bones? No, well, I guess they didn't eat animals. Where's all the pottery works? Where's all the temporary housing structures? Where's all of the human remains? Where, like, 2 million people is a lot of people, especially over 40 years.
Oh yeah, yeah, it definitely is.
Where's all the? I mean, like,
we do have.
but we don't. And like archaeologists generally agree that like the biblical Exodus is not a thing that happened historically.
Okay, so the golden calf altar just isn't a thing. I mean, there's menorahs written on it, calves drawn on it, and everything, and people worshiping the calf.
I think I know what you're referring to, but I think that that's actually like pre-Hebrew or like pre-Hebrew Proto-Arabic, right? It's not even like written by the same kind of people, right?
That sounds like a massive excuse to just put aside
if
what
it
the
wasn't
truth
written
is.
if it wasn't written by Hebrews, then why would you think that it was the Hebrews?
Moses wasn't a Jew. He was a Levite.
So he was a Hebrew, right?
Right, yeah, he was a Hebrew, but he wasn't a Jew.
There were no Jews, at least not until after, the nation of Judea, or the region of Judea, or the kingdom of Judea formed, right? That's why I used the word Hebrews.
Right, I'm a Hebrew
So
myself.
irrelevant.
I mean, I am Jewish genetically, but I am a Hebrew. But I don't know. It's just for me. That's my evidence, not proof, but evidence for Yahweh in particular. Specifically. Well,
But wait
that
a
and the
minute.
fact that they found.
But let's just say for a moment, let's grant for a moment that the Exodus actually happened, that there were a bunch of slaves who rose up in revolt and then fled Egypt, and then wandered around for 40 years. What does that? How does that mean that God's real?
How does that mean that God's real?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, isn't Yahweh the one who guided Moses and Aaron throughout the entire thing?
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you just think about this from a historical lens, where you have, a few million people rise up in revolution, flee or break their chains of their enslavement, and then flee the country that they were enslaved in, and then wander around for 40 years, you don't need a God to explain that, right?
Yeah, you might not need a God to explain that, but you would need a God to explain what God helped them do that.
I mean, like, there are successful revolutions all the time. There are also unsuccessful revolutions all the time, but like, to suggest that that this was impossible unless there was a God doing it seems kind of weird.
But on the rock, they literally wrote the name of Yahweh with Hebrew inscriptions. So you're telling me that these people weren't Hebrew, but they definitely were.
Supposing that that's the case, so I mean, we can just pull this up if you want. What's the inscription that you're referring to?
It's an inscription of the name of Yahweh, YHWH, written in
yeah, but where? On what?
What's it called? It's written somewhere in northwest Saudi Arabia. They also have writings on the Golden Calf site that you can see. And it's so strong, the evidence is so strong that if you go to that site, you will be suspected for looking for gold. And the Saudis will arrest you on spot.
I don't believe that. But before we get to that, can we talk about the inscription that you're referring to? So are you looking for like the oldest inscription of this name?
No, it's just the inscription of the name of Yahweh in northwest Saudi Arabia. I don't remember
You can't give me any more details?
but I know that it's in northwest Saudi Arabia.
So I'm finding
That's
a
the
lot
only
of things on
details that I
like
can give.
Association for Biblical Research, and then they link like a YouTube video. But presumably this has been studied. So like, is this a thing that's been... Like, is there a place that I can actually like read actual study, but like study of this,
Yeah,
or
actually, you can look up a
is it?
video called "The Real Mount Sinai" in Northwest
No,
Saudi
no. I'm
Arabia,
sorry.
and
Maybe you misheard me. I don't want a YouTube video. I want like academic study.
academic study. I
I
can't
want
give
like
you anything on that.
archaeologists.
I'm sure you can probably find it somewhere. I haven't really went to any
So
sites or
I see
anything,
one
but
that says I see there's a Wikipedia article on the Baraya, I can't talk, Buraira inscription, which is in northwestern Saudi Arabia, but this is in Paleo-Arabic. It also invokes the name of God, but it's again in Paleo-Arabic. There's an echo, by the way. Yeah, so there are no known inscriptions of the Tetragrammaton in Saudi Arabia, but the early evidence of that name in the Egyptian demonym related to the Shasu, a nomadic people from the region of northern Arabia near the northwestern edge of the Arabian Peninsula. Oh, there's some serious echo. Can you handle that? Okay, thank you. Oh, where'd he go? Oh, he left. Okay. All right, let's talk to Felix. Felix, how's it going?
Going good, you?
I'm doing all right. Do you believe in God? I guess that's a stupid question given your name, but so are you a Christian?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Would you say that what would you say is like the most compelling argument or evidence for the Christian God?
The argument of motion. I have like my own spin on it.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and lay it out. I'll jot it down.
Okay. Let me get my glasses real quick.
Yeah, you can't have an academic discussion without glasses, otherwise you won't look like a nerd.
Exactly, man. You know the gist. Okay.
All right, go
premise
ahead.
one. Yeah, premise one. Change occurs when potential motion becomes actual.
Sorry, you said change occurs when a potential something becomes actual. What was the something?
Yeah, potential motion.
Okay. Okay, premise two.
Only something in actual motion makes potential motions actual.
Okay.
Nothing can be in potential motion and actual motion the same manner.
Sure.
Whatever is actual must have been made from potential to actual.
Okay.
Premise 5. This is what we call an essentially ordered series, and this change of causation cannot regress to infinity. Yeah, that's the one that gets like the most contentions. And finally, the conclusion. The conclusion would be there must be a first cause or an unmoved mover. That's pure act, and that is what we call God.
Okay. So there's some kind of standard rebuttals here. How does this argument hold up against the B theory of time?
Which premise
The B
is
theory.
attacking?
It's attacking it's attacking premise 1, premise 2, premise 3, premise 4. Yeah, it's attacking the first 4 premises. The B theory of time essentially disrupts the idea of potential existing at all. And so if you posit the B theory of time, then there just are no potentials. You there? Hello?
Yeah, sorry.
Welcome back.
So B theory is like block time.
Yeah, basically. But in particular, under the B theory, there just are no potentials. Because everything is actual. all moments of time are equally real. So if we define potential as the way that things will be, there is no sense in which things could have, I mean, you know, you could talk about like necessitarian B theory or non-necessitarian B theory, but the point is that the way that things will be, they exist. So it's not like there's a potential to be some other way. It's just like there is a future that already exists. There's a past that already exists. There is a present that exists.
Okay, I got you. What I would say to that is that relativistic to us, how we see time is like in segments.
Well, sure, but that doesn't say anything about how time actually behaves, right?
I'm also an atheist.
Okay, but B theory is supported by, you know, modern physics.
I thought time dilation kind of proved otherwise.
No, relativity of simultaneity, and I mean it is relativity, but relativity is what gives credence to B theory, because there is no well-defined universal now. And if you're an atheist, if you're a sort of presentist, then there must be a universal now.
Yeah.
But
wait, how does this?
Relativity of simultaneity means that neither you nor I share the same notion of now.
Yeah.
And so you can't have a theory if there's not a universal now.
I suppose that God would be the grounding for the universal now.
So if you require God to justify a theory, and only under a theory does this argument get off the ground, you just are begging the question.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. I mean, the argument kind of holds with a theory, and I suppose also for a theory that like the way we perceive time would be like how we should assume the time to actually be observable.
Well, yeah. So that's what most humans did for like the first, you know, up until the last 150 years or so. Most people were just like, yeah, there is a present, the past is no longer, the future is not yet, and there is a present, and the present is real, and that's what most people did. And then we figured out that, oh, well, that intuition doesn't stand up against scrutiny once you start investigating relativity.
Yeah, okay.
Like, I think that in principle, like, if you lived 150 years ago, you would be rational for being an atheist. In fact, you may even be the most justified to be an atheist, but that's just not the case anymore.
Okay, yeah, I understand. I suppose like right now I'll concede to I'll concede to that.
Okay. Do you have another argument that doesn't rely on a theory?
I'm kind of working on like a contingency argument right now, but
okay.
Not right now. I have like premise 1 right now.
Sure.
You want to hear it?
Sure.
Okay. For everything that begins to exist is dependent on another existence that caused it to exist.
For everything that begins to exist. Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, for anything that begins to exist is dependent on another existence that caused it to exist.
I think that that's probably fine. At least like there's nothing like grammatically wrong with it, but you might run into trouble when you're using the word existence as a noun.
What do you mean?
So you're saying it depends on an existence that caused it to exist. And so I mean, like, you know, somebody who's like trying to think it through, you know, critically and be careful, they'd be like, what is an existence, right?
Right.
So you might want to say like you might want to just say like it depends on some extant object or something.
Yeah.
But you probably don't want to do that either, because you could imagine that something depends on something else that no longer exists. So you would want to say it depends on some object that existed or had some sort of existence. I don't know. You just have to be a little bit careful with the language. That's all.
Okay, for sure. When you said like that no longer exists, those wouldn't be like issues for like per se accidental.
Well, all I mean is that like if you said that it depends on something that or if you say that it depends on something that exists, then I would just say, well, like the explosion from a grenade depends on the grenade, but the grenade doesn't exist anymore. So that's all I'm saying, is that you just have to be careful with your language, otherwise you'll get picked at that way.
Okay. How do you suppose I could change the language?
So it sounds like you're trying to get that it depends on something. Well, okay, so what you would want to avoid is you would want to put any causal tenses on the thing existing, because otherwise then you can't get to God, right?
Sorry.
You want to avoid putting any tense on the causal thing, on the causal thing's existence. So you might want to say something like, for anything that begins to exist. Sorry, how did the beginning go?
Yeah, for anything that begins to exist.
Yeah, so for so you might want to say, for anything that begins to exist, it is dependent on something with some kind of existence that caused it. Maybe something like that.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Because, I mean, you don't want to say that it exists now, because it doesn't always exist, like the grenade doesn't exist. You don't want to say it existed in the past. In fact, you don't want to imply any sort of temporal existence, otherwise you'll run into the issue of, your interlocutor will say, well, if the thing exists in time, then it can't be God. So you just have to be careful with that.
Okay.
But otherwise, I think that I would have issues like on the soundness of the premise, but not as a result of like just the way it's phrased, but just on the content. So,
okay, yeah. I'm still working on like motivators for it. Right now,
yeah, sure.
Right now I have like humans depend on water, and water depends on H2O, which depends on atoms, quarks, and like nuclear forces.
So there's another sense, and so this is an issue with contingency arguments in general that I think is, at least I have an issue with it. I don't know if it's actually an issue. Is that it seems like we use the word depends on in kind of an equivocation way. Like on the one hand, like when you and I think of A depends on B, we think that like A is like the cause of B, or sorry, B is like the cause of A, in like a temporal chain kind of way.
Yeah.
But the way that you want to use it, it sounds like you want to say that like it's like a composition kind of way.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
But I don't think that you want to say that. So if that's the way that you want to go, then you could say for anything that it sounds like you would want to say for anything that begins to exist, that thing is composed of something that, yeah, I'm not sure where you would want to go if you're trying to make like a composition argument.
Okay.
So I would really, so just advice, I would really nail down what you mean by depends to exist. Like, do you mean like some sort of like non-causal dependence, or non-temporal causal relation? Do you mean some sort of like logical relation? Do you mean like, just really nail that down, because that is like the prime picking point for a lot of these contingency arguments, and you can really get lost in the weeds unless you're clear.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah. Anything else you want to do?
Yeah. Do you believe Jesus existed?
Yeah, I think so.
How would you ground justifications for his existence?
I mean, so when you say ground justification, are you just like looking for like what kind of evidence or what kind of empirics am I using, or are you looking for like some foundation? Yeah, so I would just say like, look,
metaphysical.
I would just say look, like it is not so historically implausible that there was a guy named Jesus around that time, and the fact that we have people discussing a guy named Jesus around that time seems like sufficient evidence to justify the claim that there was in fact a guy named Jesus around that time.
Okay.
It's merely that like my priors for that being the case are just not very low.
Okay. Would you use like any historical documents for the guy named Jesus?
Yeah, I mean, like I would appeal to like Josephus. I would appeal to I would even appeal to like the Bible. I would appeal to really at like the existence of Christians. Really, like those are generally like not super compelling, because I don't think any of them were contemporary, but they're compelling enough because my priors aren't low.
Okay. What would be reasons to deny the miracle claims?
Well, I think that generally speaking, one's priors for miracles should be extraordinarily low from the get-go, um, because miracles are kind of, by definition, those things that do not happen naturally. They're not like in line with the natural laws. And we have like super, super, really, really good evidence that the natural laws are universal, are indisputable, if you will.
Yeah.
And so if you're positing, if you're positing some event that is in direct violation of those natural laws, then your priors for those should be extraordinarily low. And I just don't think that the evidence is sufficient to take those extraordinarily low priors to something that's, even plausible.
Okay, I get you. I have another friend. It's like Hyper something or Iron. He's really good at like historical evidence for God, and he has like his own philosophical arguments as well. He's a great debater.
Okay. I mean, if you want to like tell him to come on up, I'm happy to talk to him.
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right. Anything else, or should I move on to the next guest?
Actually, do you have like any attacks to theism or Christianity?
Do I have any attacks? I mean, like, so I think that Christianity has some serious issues with the Trinity, at least like traditional, like Trinitarian Christianity.
So like the logical problem of the Trinity?
Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to articulate it very well, but I've heard very compelling arguments against it. No, I mean, like, so I don't think I could provide the argument particularly well, but it's convincing. It's at least fairly convincing to me. The arguments against the Trinity, namely that it seems like this is just an issue of like bad counting. I mean, if you want to talk about that, we can, but that's not like my only issue.
Yeah.
So I also take issue. Oh yeah. So if you did want to talk about it, go ahead. Yeah, we can. If you want to present the logical problem.
Yeah. So essentially, God is the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and the Father would be identical to God. The Son would be identical to God. So in conclusion, the Father should be identical to the Son. Something like that, or
yeah, it's roughly that. And then I know that there are like responses to it, and so like I'm familiar with like the basic form, but I've heard back and forths on the the responses and the responses to the responses, and I just don't think that the responses are ever particularly adequate. But I don't think I'd be able to articulate the correct critiques. So.
Okay, fair enough. You said there's a counting problem.
Well, no, I mean that's roughly that's roughly what the logical problem of the Trinity is, right? It's that look. Well, okay, I guess it's not exactly the same, but it's similar. Namely, that either you have one God, in which case the way that you count gods is, you can't have three of the same thing if there's one God, or you have three gods, and Christians want to say that there's one God. But on the other hand, you have three things that you call God, and those things are not identical to each other.
Right.
So it just seems like that there's like an issue with what it even means to say that there's one God if, when you count the three distinct things, you end up with three of them. That's like I mean, like
a brief overview.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so essentially, the Father would be distinct to the Son. Like.
By the way, you're a little quiet. If you can be a little bit closer to your mic.
Yeah. Is this better?
It is, yeah.
Okay, so as I was saying, the Father would be distinct to the Son, as the Son is begotten of the Father, and the Father begets, and the Spirit spirates from the Father.
Right, but is the Son God?
Yeah.
Is the Father God?
Yeah.
The Father is not identical to the Son.
Right, they have a distinction in material identity.
Right, and so when you count them, you'd get three, assuming you think the Holy Spirit is God as well.
Yeah.
And if you're a Christian, at least a traditional Christian, you are obligated to say there is one God, not three.
Yeah, but that would be a distinction, formal identity, just like a virtual distinction in the mind, for example.
You'll have to elaborate on that.
Yeah, so when we talk about identity, well, it's more so on transitivity. We take into account material identity, which is identity in reality, and formal identity, which is a distinction that exists in the mind. I had some examples somewhere, but it'll take me a while to find
Sorry,
them. But
so
yeah,
so there's material identity. Would you say that Jesus and God are materially non-identical?
no, they are materially identical. I meant
What
to say
is-
formal.
So if they're materially identical, doesn't that mean they share all properties?
Yeah, like identity
they-
and reality.
But they don't share all properties, right? I mean, if they share all properties, then, for example, begotten is a property, and the Father is not begotten. So they don't share all properties. So they can't be materially identical.
Jesus would be able to beget in like I suppose like a counterfactual world.
Right.
Where
No,
the
no,
Son is
but Jesus is begotten. The Father is not begotten, right?
Yeah, that would be the formal distinction.
But isn't the property of being begotten a property?
Yeah,
And so wouldn't that mean that they're materially distinct if they have distinct
no.
properties?
no.
What does it mean for two things to be materially distinct then?
I had an example somewhere. It'll take me like 2 minutes to find it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
By the way, while he's doing that, everybody make sure to like the live, share the live, all of those lovely things so we can get more people in here. More people means more conversations, and I know that's what you guys want. Also, consider joining the Discord. Also, yeah, my voice changed. Yeah, I have a cold. Also, if you have a ton of, what is it called, FU money, there is now a new tier on Patreon that you can use to subscribe to my research rather than subscribing on, like, to my science communication content, if you're interested. What's my Discord? There's a link in the link tree in my bio. Oh, he left. Have you ever talked to a witch before? Why do you think my voice sounds like this? What's my research on? I'm a physicist / mathematician, depending on who you ask. All right, I think that the guy that he wanted me to talk is in the guest box anyway, so I think that this is guy, hyperintentionality. Hyperintentionality, are you the guy that the other fellow was referring to?
I don't know. I don't think I was there for that.
Okay. Anyway, do you believe in God?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wanted to talk about the LPT first.
I mean, you can if you want, but I'm gonna, like, my point, and I brought this up to the other guy, I am not particularly well versed. I just find it compelling when people make the argument. So,
okay.
I was just giving that as an example of the kinds of things that seems like there are problems in Christianity for it, but yeah, it's not something I'm particularly well versed on.
Yeah, okay. You know, I just opt for relative identity, but anyways, yeah, I do believe in God. Yeah.
Okay, and what would you say is the most compelling reason you could give, say, an atheist to make them or convince them to come to the same conclusion?
The first one.
Okay, want to elaborate on that? Want to lay out the premises so we can go over it?
St. Thomas. I mean, like, what's your account change?
Well, right. So what I'd like you to do is, because not everybody knows all of the ways, especially in order, is lay out the premises, and then we can talk about them. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, I don't need, it'd be a bit difficult for me to, like, make a syllogism off the top of my head without, like, potentially making it invalid, because I don't have, like, anything to read off of or anything, so...
Sure.
I mean, can I just run through it informally, then?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So, pretty much what the first way argument is saying is that, well, I mean, we're starting with an Aristotelian account of change, where we say that what it means for X to change is for, there to be, or with respect to F, right, we say that there's some point where X is potentially F, and then there is a point where F is actually F, right? And we say that transition from potential to actual is what changes. And then we're going to say that these things are in a process of changing, right?
Sorry, can you repeat that? You kind of cut out there. Something about a
sorry.
What's a process of change? I just missed the
actualization of
beginning.
potential.
I just missed the beginning of the statement that you made. So, I mean, like, we can... Oh, well, he's... By the way, if you're off the app, I can't hear you. Do.
I'm sorry, man. Would you mind just like rising me up again in like 10 minutes? I've got to go eat dinner.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Oh, yeah,
I'll bring you up. I'll bring you up next. Yeah, so I'm gonna bring up the this exact same argument with him as I did with the previous guy, namely that I don't accept an Aristotelian account of change. That's like the Aristotelian account of change. There's a reason why it's named after Aristotle. It's like 2,500-ish years old, and you know, we just have a better understanding of, you know, the nature of reality now than we used to. At least that's my view. All right, let's bring up Hi. Hi, how's it going? Is Hi short for hello?
No, just hi for hybrant.
Okay. Well, Hi, do you believe in God?
I do believe in God.
Okay, and which one?
The Almighty Powerful, the Father of Jesus Christ.
Okay, you're Christian. I don't like asking people what their religion is because some people say, "Oh, I'm not religious," even though. So it's just anyway. Great.
Right,
So,
no, understandable.
so what would you say is the most compelling argument or evidence you could give an atheist that would, you know, be most likely to convince them to share your beliefs?
Really, without getting too religious. Oh gosh, without getting too religious with it, I just have to say, me and you having this conversation right now.
How? I don't follow. How is that compelling evidence?
For us to have any of this going on, the world had to be created a perfect way, right?
Why? I don't
to be able to
follow.
look out of your eyes and type onto your keyboard and look at your screen and talk to me, the nerves, the thousands of nerves through your eyes have to connect perfectly. The slightest mishap and it would not work.
Hey, so can I show you something? It's really funny.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this is my left hand. This is my right hand.
Right.
So I'm not going to move my left hand at all, at least not intentionally. I'm going to move my right hand. See that?
Mm-hmm.
That's because my nerves are crossed. They're not connected perfectly.
So that's my point, though.
But they're not connected perfectly. So it doesn't seem like everything had to be perfect. It seems like there are a lot of things that are not perfect.
If the world was created perfect, God wouldn't have put plagues out and diseases and stuff. But those things were created. Everything was created.
But you said that like everything needs to be perfect in order for us to be able to even have this conversation.
Well, exactly. You're perfect enough in God's way. Sure, you move one hand.
Did you say perfect enough? Because I don't
You're
think
perfect enough in God's eyes. Yes.
I don't think
You're
it makes
the
sense.
most perfect being you can be.
I don't think it makes sense to say perfect enough, right? If you're perfect, then there's no way that you could be more perfect. Perfect enough is kind of like an oxymoron.
That'd be like comparing yourself from me to you. You're perfect enough in God's eyes because that's how He created you. I'm perfect enough in God's eyes because that's how He created me.
So we're just not perfect, though.
Exactly. No, but I'm sure there's not one single person that's ever been born.
Right. Nobody's perfect. I agree.
Nobody's perfect. Exactly.
But like, so then why would I think that? So if we recognize that that nobody's perfect and nothing is perfect, why would us having this conversation then be proof of God, or at least evidence of God?
Because without God creating us to be this way, we would not be able to have this conversation.
Well, but look, I think that there are alternative explanations of how we're able to have this conversation. And it seems like we don't need a God in order to explain how we're having this conversation in the first place. So why would we? How could that be compelling to somebody who doesn't already believe in God?
Let's take species for an example, and I'm just going to go with biology.
Sure.
Our vocal cords.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody communicates. Every species communicates. Sure, we have different languages with the humans because we're, a terrible species and we like to be our own. And that's how it started from the beginning. But why is it that every single species has a perfectly built vocal cord to speak with? I'm sure some people are born mute or deaf.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that every species has vocal cords.
The one I said, every species that has vocal cords
Oh.
has them perfect enough to where they can communicate with other species of
It's
theirs.
not clear to me that all animals with vocal cords communicate.
Well, can you find some that don't? Because from my understanding, if mammals that have vocal cords and they're communicating with them, they almost always do.
So I guess that there's actually like, it's not quite clear what a vocal cord even is. Like, there's a name for this. What's it called? There's a name
I
for
can't
the
pronounce
larynx.
it.
It's called the larynx.
Yeah.
But like birds don't have that. They have another type of anatomy called a syrinx, which is like another kind of thing that produces sound. Only mammals have larynxes. So, and then frogs have a completely different thing. So the question is like what counts as vocal cords, and like, is it enough to just be able to make any sound? And if it's enough to be able to make any sound, then I could say that like fish can make sound, but that doesn't mean that they're communicating with each other.
That's fair. That's fair. I can see that. I think what it is, in my way of looking at it, is if we were made any other way, right? And for some reason people just didn't have vocal cords and we couldn't talk or anything, what would life be like? You know what I mean? Like, if you look at it that way,
right? It would just be different. You know,
but like,
we would communicate another way, or we wouldn't communicate at all.
Would we communicate another way, though, is my point? Or would we have gotten stuck at a point in time because of it that it prevented a lot of things from happening?
So if what you're saying is that we got evolutionarily lucky, that might be the case. A lot of the steps in evolution are, in some sense, dumb luck. You know, you might expect that in most cases of evolution, you won't end up with anything that's particularly intelligent. But all that means is that we got evolutionarily lucky. I'm not sure how it gets to the point where this means that God must exist.
Well, because from time starting from thousands of years ago that you can find in the history books of people talking, if it's something that has to do with evolution, then why isn't it that we are continuing to evolve in certain ways that we had been in the past to get to where we are now?
Why would evolution continue to change us in ways that we've already changed?
Like, why isn't it continuing to change us throughout time?
We are changing. I mean, like the ability to digest and process lactose, the sugar in milk, beyond young childhood is an evolved trait that humans have. Not all humans do, but many do.
Argue that because in a lot of tribes in Scottish territories thousands of years back, women with breast milk would often save milk and like carry out more milk and breastfeed into jugs and stuff and save it for men to drink. When there was
because they didn't have they had the lactase persistence gene or whatever. I mean, this was like 20,000 years ago or something like this that we started to see this process evolve. So, or this particular gene develop, and so it's not so surprising that people in Scotland would have been lactose tolerant, right?
That's fair. All right. Okay.
Yeah, what's the estimated? I guess it's lactase persistence, and it's mostly found, by the way, in the southern parts of the Middle East, Ethiopia, and then Europe. It's not really found anywhere else. And you know, it kind of makes sense that it would evolve because it's super relevant. If all you have are like cows or llamas or whatever, and you don't have a whole lot of like animals that you can slaughter, but you can milk your animals, then it would make sense that you would want this kind of property, right? Anyway, but yeah, like it just seems like we can account for a lot of these features of the human evolutionarily, rather than requiring God to explain the features that we have.
Okay, I see your point on that.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, that's about all I have.
Okay.
That's about it, but I just want to say I appreciate you having me on for a conversation. I appreciate you being as respectful as you are with me as you are with everybody else. I think it's awesome what you're doing. And
Thanks,
keep it
man.
up.
Thanks, man. Have a good one, okay? We have some guests from YouTube, but for some reason it's not showing me their names. So if you're watching on YouTube, I don't know why. If you're listening, if you're in the YouTube queue, for some reason it's not showing me who you are. So make sure to write something in the chat box. In the meantime, I'm going to bring up Jake. God, I'm losing my voice. Jake, how's it going?
Hey man, how are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good.
Do you believe in God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and which one? Just so I know, just so I can keep it straight.
Basically, I was like raised Catholic, but like deism, I would say, is what I subscribe to now.
Okay, cool. And what would you say is the most compelling argument you could provide me for deism?
Yeah, like I know there was that one guy who had like a whole syllogy, and I'm not sure, I never took like a formal logic or philosophy class, so
Sure.
I'll give you in terms of, I'll try to like provide it in terms of premises, but like I'm not sure if it'll be
You can make
perfectly
it.
sound,
You can make it an informal argument, and then we can talk about it.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I would say like the previous guy who was just on, like he was trying to like apply like a fine tuning argument, and that's kind of what I'm going to go for, except I think the fine tuning that he was doing was like way too close to like what can be explained with like natural selection and evolution. I mean, pretty much everything biologically on our planet, natural selection, evolution, the location of our planet. I mean, you could apply the concept of natural selection to our planetary system, to everything. And it's like, it makes perfect sense why life could be supported, because it is, in a way, like it's just selected for. But and then even going back further, like in terms of points of abstraction, I've heard people make the fine-tuning argument about cosmological constants like the Planck's constant, the speed of light, all of these sort of natural constants. And even those, like if you believed in some multiverse theory, like you could say, okay, well, the fact that our universe is perfect to support like such complexities. I mean, if we lived in a multiverse, like, of course,
Right.
We can observe the fact that we live in a universe that has complexities because we happen to be the one that has complexities. It's like natural selection can explain that. So fine tuning for me, like even back to that far of abstraction, like doesn't really explain things. But where I finally like have trouble, like where I just, in my case, like I just believe in a God, is that the fact that mathematical truths and logic exist, like basically like mathematical. So this is kind of where I can explain my premise now, but
Sure.
that hopefully gives you context on like my beliefs. So mathematical truths and symmetries exist objectively. They are necessary and independent of human thought. And my explanation for that is like, if there was an alien species within our universe, or even say there was a multi-universe for argument's sake in another universe, like mathematical truths would still hold. And so maybe that needs a little more interrogation. But anyway, then the next premise, the physical universe consistently exhibits these mathematical structures. And like one example that really spoke to me is like, if you look at like Noether's theorems, like the fact that symmetries can give rise to conservation laws, like these basic mathematical symmetries give rise to conservation laws. And so this shows like a deep correspondence between abstract necessity and reality. And then premise 3, the existence of a physical universe that conforms to abstract mathematical structures is not logically necessary on its own. The abstract truths describe possibilities, but not an actual instantiation of those truths. And then premise 4, therefore, the universe's actualization in a way that aligns with abstract mathematical necessity points to some grounding principle beyond mere chance or brute fact. This principle need not be fully understood, but it explains why abstract order is instantiated as reality. And then premise 5, a rational, necessary principle capable of grounding mathematical law and reality is consistent with classical notions of God, though this does not specify all attributes of God. And then the conclusion is like the existence of a mathematically ordered universe provides a reason to posit a grounding principle, a rational source, which aligns with the philosophical concept of a God. So it's more like my definition of God is slightly different, but
Sure, no, I
than,
follow. I follow.
typical religious
So,
people. But yeah, that's
I'm
my
a
idea.
I'm a nominalist. I don't think that mathematical objects exist. I don't think that
Okay,
they have
interesting.
independent. I don't think that they have independent ontology. I don't think that abstract objects exist generally. I think that they, you have concepts concepts, and we can talk about whether, like, in what sense a concept exists. But yeah, like I have a really hard time accepting that like there is some mathematically necessary truth when all mathematical results, all theorems, are derived from some set of axioms that need not be accepted. For example, are you familiar with axiomatic set theory?
I will say I'm not like a mathematical major or anything like that, so not. I know
Right.
what set theory is, and I understand the concept of like, for example, like maybe this is what you're getting at, but like if you look at like, how we evolved from Euclidean geometry to like hyperbolic geometry, like you could just change the axioms and that completely changes the subsequent theorems. Is that what you're trying to get at?
That's roughly what I'm getting at. Namely, if it's the case that mathematical objects actually exist, these are propositions, right? Propositions have truth values. They're either true or false. And if they have actual existence, then that means that there must be an actual answer as to whether or not a particular axiom is true, right? So it seems like this mathematical realism view that you're taking, which is akin to what you're doing, which is not so uncommon, the mathematical realism view kind of requires that you say this is the true set of axioms, and I just have to accept that for no reason. And I just don't understand why I should accept that.
What about a counter? So instead of, if I were to change my argument to instead describe like mathematical truths as existing, but instead that the logic that one applies to axioms, that process is inherently, like the fact that process can even exist. If I say that God is the reason why that process at all could even be possible, how does that? And I know I'm articulating this off the cuff now, so it's not
you're
really
fine,
that
you're
great,
fine.
But you get what I'm saying. It's like it's less about the actual objects, but more about the procedures that one can take in order to produce truth, and like that in itself is what we could define. The creator of that is what I define as God.
But see, again, I'm a nominalist. I don't think that there is some like truth that exists. I take truth to be statements about propositions or properties of propositions. And propositions being objects that exist in our minds, I would say that if there were no people, there'd be no truth statements. But I mean, setting that aside, the point still stands. Why would I need some abstract thing, whether it's like an abstract process that allows us to deduce truth, or whether it's like an entity that kind of that provides the foundation for that truth? Why would I need that when I could just say, look, these are things that humans came up with in a way that helps us understand the world around us because it's worked in the past, and so we've kind of leaned into it.
Okay, yeah, I get your point in that, and I'm not going to be able to argue that there's a need for this entity, I guess, and so I know I'll fail my argument against you, my proof against you. And I kind of I have to concede, like I know my position is really difficult to prove anything, but it's more that the mathematical nature of the universe and the fact that there exists, and I know you're going to say there's no mathematical nature to the universe. That's going to be your rebuttal.
Well,
but
so look, I think what you're trying to say is the consistency, or perhaps like the uniformity of the universe. And I would absolutely grant that, like, yeah, the universe does seem to behave the same way tomorrow as it did yesterday, and it seems to be roughly the same here as it is like a billion light years away. So there is absolutely something true about the fact that our nature is like has some consistent behavior. Is that roughly what you're leaning towards? Yes,
and that it's a predictable, consistent behavior that is, and I guess I don't want to use the word logical, but I don't know a better. I'm at a loss of words right now, but like that there's a consistent nature to it. It is predictable, and because of that, the fact that there exists this predictable, consistent nature, when there could be, there could otherwise be an infinite number of other states that our universe could have taken. And when I say universe, like I don't mean like literally the physical universe that we're in. I mean like whatever.
You mean reality.
Even if there was a multiverse that was true. Reality, yes. Reality is the word I'm looking for. That there's a consistency to reality. Because say like one day we were able to like detect other universes somehow, and we could derive a whole set of physics around a multiverse theorem. And even then, like that set of logic and physics, the fact that all of that consistency can still exist, that we could develop that is what I'm trying to say is like what I think God has endowed.
But so, I mean, so it's an interesting question. Like, why are we able to do science is essentially what you're asking. Like, why does this work? And, perhaps I don't have an answer to that, but I would then ask, like, if there is a God and God is the explanation, why are God's mental faculties in such a way that they are consistent, that they desire consistency, that they have uniformity, that this is like one could imagine a possible world where God just has completely disjoint thoughts and desires, and the universe that being desires is one in which completely random things happen at completely random times.
And that's you're leading into my point. The fact that the universe isn't that is what indicates to me that there is evidence for a rational, logical mind that has created this universe.
So what I'm asking is, where does the rationality and logic of that mind come from, in your view?
So this is where, I don't know if you know, recursion. This is our base case.
Mm-hmm.
This is where, and so I understand that under that, it's that's indefensible. It's a recursive problem, and so
it
there's no way
we have the same problem. We're both trying to explain something that's intelligible, right?
Yes.
And neither of us have a good explanation for why it's intelligible. You're just pushing the buck back one step.
Yes, and if I were to say, okay, the premise, if you were to make the base case just that all of these logic, that this logic exists without, and apply Occam's razor to my argument and say you don't need a God in this situation, I would say that's completely valid. I guess that's where I do take the one last leap of faith, and it is a form of faith to then say, well, I'll define that as God.
So I guess if the view is merely that, look, is the view essentially that, sorry, I'm losing my voice, so I'll get some voice cracks occasionally. If the view essentially is that, look, the universe is intelligible, therefore it needs something to make it intelligible, some intelligence to make it intelligible, I would just ask the question of, how is it that, or how do you figure that you need an intelligence to make something intelligible?
Well, no, you definitely don't, because emergent behaviors in, for example, the fact that physics can lead and emerges into chemistry, and chemistry can emerge into biochemistry, which emerges into life. I don't think that you need necessarily intelligibility to result in you can have out of chaos can derive logic. So I do accept that.
But if that's the case, then it seems like that you just agreed that there is an explanation for how our universe could be intelligible.
No, but the part that I still have difficulty explaining, so even if out of chaos can derive logic, the part that I have trouble contemplating is the behaviors that chaos behaves in, emergent properties, for example. Okay, do you know Conway's game of life, computational?
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Okay, so out of that chaos, so out of the very simple axiomatic rules that can occur, one cell, populates with another, you can get all these crazy emergent behaviors that are both chaotic but also ordered. But to me, the part that I still can't understand is the actual laws that are set in Conway's game of life. So if this cell has 2 alive cells next to it, therefore therefore it will be alive in the next generation, all of that type of stuff. The actual laws that govern that is where the order I'm trying to describe comes in. So even if there was a whole bunch of chaos and logic can derive from that, it's more like the transitional rules. Those are the parts that I attribute to a God.
But couldn't we just say, look, all rules are instantiated in all possible universes, and humans can't arise in in universes where you have chaos, and so of course you're going to find yourself in a universe that has some sort of uniformity, intelligibility.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree with that in terms of if you were to look at a multiverse theory. But I'm saying those multiverses.
No, I'm zooming out even from the multiverse. I'm saying all possible ways that reality could have been, perhaps they're all instantiated in different realities. So most realities would be wildly complicated, or wildly chaotic. But ours, well, we ended up in the one that allows for life.
And that I agree with, but the fact that there exists realities at all in all possible realities.
But now you're just asking why does anything exist rather than nothing?
True. I mean, yeah, and I attribute that to God.
But why does God exist rather than nothing?
And that's my axiom number one. That's my axiom premise, because my brain is incapable of comprehending any other possibility, because I just have a mere human brain.
Look, it just seems like you could hold identical in content views by just removing God and taking all of the properties all of the properties except mental properties from God and transposing them onto the universe, or physical reality, or whatever you want to call it, and nothing would change about your worldview.
Oh, definitely, but I like to define that as God.
Okay. That's fair.
That's my God.
That's fair, I guess. It's not going to be compelling to, well, I mean, maybe it'll be compelling to other people. It's not particularly compelling to me, but I can understand why you would want to believe it, definitely.
Yeah, it's more like I went a lot of my life like trying to grapple with faith, but at the same time, like I love physics, I love math, I love science,
Based.
and so because of that, I'm not going to reject like logic in a way, but the way that I still hold on to some relevance of faith is that the fact that there exists anything but not nothing. I guess I attribute that to God, and it doesn't give me comfort the way I think standard religious people get comfort from religion, because obviously I don't think there's any. I think that our universe is just kind of like a clock that's somewhat deterministic in a lot of ways, but it does give me comfort to feel like there's some abstract higher level being in some possible form. I don't know if that is at all compelling to you, but
well, I mean, it's not compelling to me, but I can at least sympathize with the view. I can understand why you would believe it and why it would be. I don't think that. I mean, I don't want to say that it's necessarily irrational. As
someone who's rational, sometimes I do question the rationality of it, but that's where my faith comes in, I guess.
Well, right. Look, I can understand why you would believe that. It's not going to be compelling to me. That might just be a difference in psychology. But like, I'm not going to be mad. Yeah. I'm not going to be mad at you for believing that. Like, more power to you, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and to you, I obviously respect your I for the longest time was actually atheist, and then I had come into this belief actually fairly recently, just over time. So, yeah, no, I understand your position as well.
Okay, well, Jake, I'm going to let you go because there's somebody who had to leave and then they want to come back. But thanks for being here, Jake.
Okay, yeah, okay, thank you as well.
Take care. All right, before I bring up the other guy, I'm going to read some donations. So we got $5 from Larry Beck. No note, just keep it up. Thank you so much. And then we got a few cash apps. We got $10 from Grimlock for a soup and hydration. I should hydrate. I might have soup later. I don't know if I want soup. But thank you, as always, for the $10, Grimlock. And then we have $1.11 from Kaylee for sent you an email. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. However, I don't do private one-on-one Discord Zoom chats to go over theories. So sorry to do that for you, Salmons, but them's the breaks. Anyway, let's bring on the next guest. All right. Welcome back, Hyperintentionality. How's it going? How's dinner?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry I had to go like that.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So you were making an argument roughly in the form of, I guess, the first way, right? And you began by asking me what my account of change is. And
yeah, so what do you believe?
Yeah, so my view of change, and perhaps it's not so sophisticated, but the way I view it is it's a way of distinguishing between space-time events that are spatially co-located, but temporally not co-located.
Mm-hmm. So
that's basically it.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, so then, like, would you say that change, I mean, when we're talking about things changing, there's sort of asymmetry. So, like when A changes to B, B doesn't change to A. So how would you say that when you have this temporal distinction, that there's some sort of order, if you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, so, I mean, you're asking why does time go forward and not backward? I mean, I could speculate about, like, I could speculate, like, oh, well, you know, entropy dictates that we remember the past and we can't remember the future, and our brain is governed by, you know, along with other things, it's governed by thermodynamics, and so, of course, we can't remember the future. We remember things that are in a lower entropy state, and so we're going to have a preferred order just based off of our own psychology, based off how our brain works. But that's not some fundamental distinction.
So, I mean, you don't believe there is a real order, then?
I don't think that, so I should say that there's not a canonical order, or there's not a natural order. What is the case is that there are at least, I suppose in some sense, assuming that your universe is time orientable, there are two choices, and you could either set your clocks to go forward with entropy or your clocks to go backward with entropy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think the issue with that is it just seems to me like very, counterintuitive to say that change isn't asymmetrical. Only, sorry. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So to be clear, you could add in a symmetry breaker and just say, look, change is the distinction between space-time events that are temporarily not co-located but spatially are co-located, and we say that space-time event A changes into space-time event B when space-time event A comes from a lower entropy moment. You could just add in the asymmetry if you wanted to. It just doesn't disturb me that much, so I'm not going to add it in.
I mean, then you still have the sort of question as, well, what does it mean for them to change? What does it mean for A to change into B?
All it means is that there's a distinction between space-time events where A is lower entropy than B.
So it's just a distinction.
Yeah, it's just a distinction. Yeah.
Okay.
You have a thing that's spatially in the same place, but it is distinct at different moments of time. I mean, that's like a pretty natural definition of change in my view. I mean, that's what we think of when we think of change. Like a tree growing, what it means is it's in the same place, but at different times it's different.
Yeah, well, I mean, would you say there is some sort of relation, like a causal relation?
Depends on how you're talking about causal. If you're talking about causal in kind of the like Aristotelian sense, or like I guess
it can be.
So we can talk about causality. Causality in space-time, but that's not necessarily like causality in the sense that like A causes B, in that there is like some cause and effect relationship. That's not that useful of a notion when you're trying to talk about the universe fundamentally. Now, I would say that it's totally fine to use like colloquially, but I don't know if that's like a fundamental thing.
Yeah, so I think I don't know if I have like really any like major contentions as of right now. I think I'd say that my view seems more intuitive.
Well, I mean, would you say that your view is predicated on an A theory of time?
Not necessarily, no.
So does your view my understanding of the first way is that it requires the existence of potentiality, right?
Yeah, but you could be a B theorist and say that there are potential. You just say that they're like relative to points in the B series.
So when you say that something is potential, what does that mean then in a B theory?
Potential. It's just describing a thing sort of causal power. It's saying that that's a way it could be, or it could be that way.
But in a B series, the could be is a statement about some future, but the future is already it has ontology, right? It already exists.
Right. Well, I mean
so what does it mean to say that it could be?
Well, you could say there's like a determinism. Like there's only this one option of potential.
So I just don't know what could be means if it already is in all way. If it already is in the future way, and it already is now.
I mean, I guess you'd say the power it has right now, or what it is compatible with it being that way.
So
like
by potential, you just mean that the way that it is now is consistent with the way that it will be at some point in the future?
It doesn't necessarily have to be in the future. I mean, it could be though.
What else do you mean by potential?
Actually, no. Yeah, it would be in the future.
So by potential, you're just saying that some object at this moment in time, its structure, its properties, whatever, is compatible with the structure and properties of some other space-time point. That's maybe co-located but at a different moment of time.
It doesn't have to. Yeah, it could. Pretty much.
Okay, so I mean, if that's your definition of potential, then sure, I'm happy to accept that. But then how does the argument go?
But I mean, would you also accept that it's also like some real like feature of the world. Like it's not just like a
Well,
conceptual
if you mean
entity.
if you mean like compatibility is like property compatibility between different moments of time, is that like a real feature of the world? Well, I take properties to be conceptual things. So I'm not
but I mean-
I'm not quite sure what it would mean for the relation between properties to be like real, to have like yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, would you say that potential? Well, sorry, no. Like if an object has different properties, it can still be the same object.
If an object has different properties,
Yeah. So like,
yeah. So it's kind of iffy, right? It depends on what we mean by like an object. So, you might say that like okay, so I'll just shortcut and say generally no. Insofar as the way that we kind of categorize things is by looking at the properties that we ascribe to them, and if we ascribe different properties, then we call them different things.
I mean, you can at least under like a. Well, like you could say that there are things that are essential to it, but then you could also say there are things that are just accidental in the sense that it could have them, but it also couldn't. Like I could say that I could have blonde hair, right? But that's not. It's not essential for me to have blonde hair, and then we
Right,
say
but that's just because we're being vague about what you are, right? I mean, like the question of identity is a tricky one.
It is.
But let's instead talk about like a tree, right? A tree could have like counterfactually whatever. Like we could say that like, oh, that tree could have blue leaves, or maybe it could have red leaves, right? But like that's just because we're being vague about what we mean by that tree. If what we mean by that tree is like the way the tree is with the set of all of the properties that we ascribe to it, then no, we would say that it's a different tree if it has different properties. And by the way, this is why I generally take a mereological nihilist view, because I think that there are some issues with talking about objects, like the identity of objects and like the properties that they have, because it definitely runs into some weird issues.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem. I don't think I really share that intuition that if like you're talking about two trees, you say one has a different property, then you're really talking about two different trees, even if it's like it's illusory that you are talking about one.
But then like what's a tree, right? Could I say that the two different could I say that if you have two trees that are identical in every way except one is like 30 feet taller than the other, that they're the same tree?
Yeah.
But are they the same tree? Like if one is 30 feet taller than the other, what if you have one that's like a foot tall and one that's like 80 feet tall? How are you going to tell me that this is the same thing?
I mean, I'm assuming they're like different points in time, right?
No, they just share all properties.
Like, are they existing simultaneously?
Maybe. Maybe not.
No,
I mean, like, just imagine that they're like spatially and temporally separated.
Spatially and temporally separated.
Yeah.
And yeah, they could be the same tree. Yeah. The tree moves. How? Just because, right? I mean,
imagine that they are space-like separated, meaning that it would have to move faster than the speed of light to get from point A to point B.
Man.
Like you have, okay, I'll just make this explicit. You have a tree that's like a foot tall on Earth, and then you have a tree that's identical in every way. It has all of the exact same properties, except it's 90 feet tall and it's in the Andromeda Galaxy tomorrow.
So what was the question?
Okay, so you have two identical trees. They're identical. Yeah. All of their properties are identical, except one is a foot tall here on Earth, and the other is 90 feet tall in Andromeda. And, let's say that the one that's 90 feet tall in Andromeda is 100 years from now.
So it's 100 years old.
It's 100 years from now, but it's also in the Andromeda Galaxy.
Yeah, no, I think that could be the same tree.
How could they be the same tree? What does that mean? Well, I mean what does it mean that they're the same tree?
Like, I mean, active potency would give us an answer. We're going to say that any property that it's gained is just something that it already had, just that existed potentially. I mean, active potency does actually give us an answer for that. So.
Right, but it couldn't have gotten from here to there. Like, there's no continuity there.
Oh, if it couldn't have gone from here to there, then I would say that therefore they can't be the same tree because this distance couldn't have been traveled.
Oh, wait, so it seems like the identity that you're ascribing is merely like spatio-temporal, or like being spatially co-located, right?
No,
Or like
well,
there's some like continuity like of the object's trajectory through space-time.
Well, yeah, if we're talking about objects in time, then they have to have some sort of continuity, I'd say.
Yeah, so in that sense, you can. I think if you don't want to do mereological nihilism, which I think is reasonable, mereological nihilism's weird. But if you don't want to do that, then yeah, you could say that like an object is like a thing that follows a trajectory through space-time, and you would refer to the object as the whole trajectory through space-time, not as just one moment of space-time, not as just one slice of that trajectory. So one would say that like like
say, like,
I
temporal
am my
pulse?
entire. Sorry, one more time. I didn't hear you.
Yeah, would you say like sort of like temporal parts then?
I don't know what that last word was.
Temporal parts.
Oh, Pats. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And so like, you know, we could say that like an object is the same if it is you know, in some sense like if its spatial position follows a trajectory through time in like a continuous way or something. Now, of course, then we run into issues like, you know, what if you have like a branching, but that's a whole separate set of whole separate conversation. But anyway, this is to say that like I think that the reason you brought this up is because you wanted to talk about properties being like things themselves, and like generally I think the way I think about the way I think about objects is I think about them as basically bundles of properties that we came up with, that we ascribe to some physical thing. Sort of. I actually really don't like bundle theory, and I also really don't like substantivism. I think that they're both bad, and I don't know what the resolution is. Because on the one hand, if something is just a bundle of properties, that's very, very weird, because properties are usually things, like properties of something, and if there are no somethings, then what does it mean for the bundle of properties to be properties at all? On the other hand, what does it mean for something to exist without properties? That's also really weird. I don't... Maybe things exist and they have certain behaviors, and then we name those behaviors properties. I don't know. It's not clear to me. Anyway, sorry, we kind of got really off on a tangent. Where were we?
Oh yeah. I think where were we? We were talking about. Well, there was something about properties. We were talking about, I think, properties and, you know, how they have identity and how this relates to active potency and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, how do you get to... so you gave a definition of potency or of potential, which is something like it is like a compatibility condition between the way things are at some moment in time and the way things are for the same object at some later moment in time.
Yeah, it's going to be like a feature. That would be a feature of the thing's sort of causal power. Right?
What do you mean by that?
Or something else's causal power.
What do you mean by that's a feature of the... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, causal power is just the like ability of something to cause something else. And like when I'm saying it's a feature of the causal power, I'm just saying that's something true, like a real property of the causal power of the thing that it has.
Okay, so you're saying that the way that like this compatibility condition is a property of the causal power. Why should I think that there's causal powers at all?
Why should you think this? I mean, it sort of, I'd say it just gives us a good account of, like, why there isn't just complete randomness, like my tree causing a volcano. Right?
Well, no, I mean,
if we restrict what they can do.
You can have like temporal relations that are, you know, concrete or set in stone. I mean, like, whether or not you think they exist abstractly or conceptually, whatever. You can have temporal relations that are still not causal in the sense that, like, you have cause-effect relationships. You can just have, look, two things that are separated in time have this relation, and two things that are separated in space and time have that relation, and so on. And that doesn't require any sort of, like, cause and effect kind of ontology.
So you just deny causality? or
Well,
would you just go with
no.
what you
So
said?
I would say that like I'm skeptical of cause and effect. Causality is, at least in physics, causality has a different way of understanding it. But yeah, I would say I'm skeptical of like I'm skeptical of like the ordered notion of cause and effect. Now, of course, it's super useful like colloquially. It's super useful in like human interactions. But at like a fundamental level of like what's actually going on, I'm skeptical.
I mean, wouldn't that be like an epistemic problem?
Not necessarily. Not if I think that there are still necessary relations, right?
No, because you seem to want to say that when we're making good reason, right, or we're getting a conclusion, and it's from good reason, that good reason caused you to come to that conclusion.
Oh well, it sounds like you're saying that like, wait, hold on. I don't even know if that. I don't think that even tracks. Like I wouldn't ever say that because like I don't think that like. It seems weird to say that like concepts, even in like a standard understanding of cause and effect, that concepts have causal power.
I'm not saying concepts of causal power. I'm talking about the like brain states.
So then, can you repeat what you said?
Yeah, like like us thinking about good reason. We want to say that us thinking about that good reason is what made us come to the conclusion. We don't want to say that we just have all random conclusions.
Well, no, I would just say that there is a relationship between my brain state now and the brain state later, right?
Right, but how would that account for the as to why there's not randomness?
Why would it be random? If I think that there is some like uniform set of relations or something, then why would it be random?
Well, because you'd have no way of saying that there's a directedness for these like the first relator to have the second relator. There's no sort of reason that would come about rather than another.
I mean, I think that the directedness is merely a feature of our psychology, or perhaps a feature of any agent's psychology. But I don't think that it's intrinsic. I mean, you could just like I think that if we had like a complete understanding of the human brain or something, I think you could just as easily figure out what somebody's thought process was given a conclusion as you could figure out what somebody's conclusion is given a thought process.
I mean, I just don't really see how that solves the problem.
I mean, if you have if you have fixed relationships, then the point is the outcomes are identical, as if there was some like causal power. It just kind of is skeptical of what causal power even is.
Yeah, that I'd just like be a bit skeptical of sort of how we're explaining how there is this necessary relation without saying that one of the relators is sort of is the reason that the other relator is, in the sense that it's sort of fixing it. Because
what do you mean by is the reason? Like relations can be bidirectional, right?
Yeah, that's correct. When I'm talking about by the reason, I'm talking about causal reason.
Right, but that's the thing that I'm saying is perhaps a psychological thing.
Yeah, but I'm saying that. Well, then you don't really have a solution to the problem if you're not saying that these objectively exist.
What's the problem? Like why there's why reasoning works?
Pretty much, yeah. How we can.
I mean, look. I'm just positing that there are relationships between brain states, and those relationships are just as good backwards and forwards. What you're saying, the only thing that your worldview has, I mean, in this context anyway, that your worldview has is that it has some preferred reason to think that the relationship going in one direction is somehow more real than the relationship going in the other direction.
All right, but like,
but otherwise, I mean, we have the same set of like relations. I just think that both relations are equally real, both directions.
All right, well, you can say that.
But it still
could be causal.
But I mean, if you have an accounting, then I have an accounting because we have the same set of relations. It's just the nature of what those relations are. That's the disagreement.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm saying that the nature of my relations, right, is giving a better account of this, or it's actually explaining how the one of the relators is fixing the other, right? How there is that necessary relation. I don't think you've
I don't think
really
that
explain.
I don't think that you've accounted for that. I don't think you've accounted for how it is that reasoning, leads to a conclusion. How the brain state at point A causes the brain state at point B.
I mean, that's sort of how I'd say that, just these facts would produce this other fact. And that's all we need. But you haven't really.
So I mean,
the only way I can think of you explaining this relation you're describing is where it's going to ultimately result in a causal relation, or something
wait a minute. So
very close to a causal relation.
So given the account that you just gave, is that compatible with B theory?
Yep.
Okay. So then, what do you mean by cause?
Cause just to exercise your power. Right,
Okay,
to
but
produce.
that's the word in question. I don't know what you mean by power. Like,
I didn't. That's not the word in question. The word in question was cause.
well, okay, yes, but
power.
like you could say, oh, a cause is just like when you have the power to do something and you use that power, right?
Yeah.
But like that's just okay. So maybe it wasn't the word in question. Sure, I'll grant you that. Okay, then what do you mean by power?
Power would just be a sort of ability to bring something about. Or
But
no,
if
it'd
the
just be
thing-
an ability.
An ability.
Just an ability. Yeah,
Like, is it a counterfactual thing?
it could be. And I'd also say, in this case, it's a real feature of the world.
Because I mean, the way I see it is that, at least in a B theory, like the thing exists. The future state exists. So I don't know what it means for there to be a power that gets you to that future state. The future state's already there. I don't. What is the power doing?
I mean, the power, right? They'd just be simultaneous. The power would just be the thing fixing that and bringing it about, right? But that's going to be simultaneous.
I don't know what kind of relationship you're talking about here. Like, what kind of causal relationship you're talking about here? If it's simultaneous.
Well, I just told you it's exercising this power to bring about an effect. That doesn't seem to me to make any reference to like tenses.
Well, exercise. I mean, exercising is a present tense verb, right?
Yeah, maybe.
I just don't understand what it means for there to be a cause between two temporally disconnected events.
Oh.
Other than that there is some relationship that you can describe, say, mathematically or something between point A and point B. I just don't know what else is happening. What other relationship could there be?
I mean, what I've described.
But
Just that end decision. Well,
the power.
what I'm positing is adopting that this causal power is a feature of the world. So I mean, if
okay.
you deny
So
that,
can you repeat to me again what you meant by power?
yeah, but just an ability.
That's a synonym, but I know what an ability means colloquially, but like what does a power do?
Yeah, well,
what does a power like what kind of does it have ontological status? Is it a property? Like, what is it?
I'd say it does have ontological status. Yeah, it's just, I guess you could say, an ability with ontological status.
And so when you say, and you wouldn't say it's like a material thing, you would say it's like an abstract thing.
No, I'd say it's concrete. I think concrete things are actually defined by causal power.
Okay, you'd say it's concrete. Okay. And so, so we have like some concrete property, you said, right?
Yep.
So you have a concrete property, and which is an ability, and I guess we can say an ability is like, yeah, I mean, I don't know how to make sense of an ability.
Yeah.
In like a B theory, like it just seems like a lot of this is like trying to smuggle in like some sort of like temporal relations here.
I don't see how ability would necessarily make reference to time.
Well, typically we think of abilities to make something the case, but making something the case means that it's not that way now and it will be that way in the future, which is kind of smuggling in this notion that like the future and the present are distinct, or are
I don't think that's necessarily true.
So I wouldn't. So then, what do you mean by ability then? If it's not like some causal thing, some like temporal thing.
I mean, I think that is a causal thing. I'm just saying it's not necessarily tied to causality. What causality?
No,
so
ability.
You're asking what is causality if it's not a temporal thing?
No, I meant ability. what is an ability if it's not like the power to do something temporal, or like the, you know,
Well, that is, well, it's just power, but not temporally. I mean, I think also though, when we get to like terms like ability, I mean, that's sort of like the word "the." Like, we can't really like reduce that down further. I mean, we just sort of have to, we sort of just understand it by using it.
Right. So I understand it if you take an A theory of time seriously, but it just seems like a word that doesn't really mean much if you take B theory of time seriously, right?
Well, no, because I don't think, I just don't think it really makes any reference to.
Well, I mean, look, if we're just relying on the standard notion of the word ability, the way that we interact with the world is like assuming that the present is real and the future is you know, like not yet there, and the past had already happened, right? And so when we talk about the word ability, the way that we understand this is like, this is a way that you can make the future be, but it's not that way. It's like not, it isn't that way yet, but it's a way that you can make the future be. Like, I have the ability to, you know, go to the store, and that means that like there is that like I could make the future be a certain way. It's just not that way yet, where the future being a certain way would be me being at the store. But if we're saying that if we're saying that A theory is, you know, not true, or if we're taking B theory seriously, then like the whole notion of like the way the future could be, even though it's not that way yet, that's just an incoherent notion.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't.
So
you
like,
could also define
go
ability in
ahead.
terms of counterfactuals. You could
You
also
could
like talk
ability
about
in terms of
counterfactuals. So that don't really seem to make
Okay,
reference to time.
so let's consider that. So you would say that ability is like, yeah, consider two possible worlds branching off from now. Doesn't that? Well, wait a minute. So then, what do you mean by? Hold on. Yeah, we have to be a little bit careful here. So the possible worlds here are, you have two complete timelines, and so with past, present, future, all, you know, having equally real existence. And so then, what's the counterfactual that you're what is the ability doing?
I mean, the ability could just be. I mean, we could say like we have I don't know, like a ball has the ability to produce a fire. Right, we could say, well, we could just define it in terms of counterfactuals. It could, right? If we talk about the same point in the series of time in this other possible world where it is causing the power, we'd say, oh no, sorry, fire. We could just say that they're both at the same points with respect to their timelines, and then we could say that we're just defining it in terms of counterfactual. We're saying it could, okay, it could have, because in this possible world, it could have done this. Right, at this time.
Okay, so you're saying,
world, it's not doing it.
Suppose that you have two complete timelines that are identical up until a certain point, and then they are divergent. Is that what you're saying?
Sort of. I'm just saying that, yeah, it would sort of be defined in a sense counterfactual.
Okay, so if we try to think about it that way, then we're talking about an ability being, well, let's back up. So a power is a kind of a power was an ability to, how do we define this?
Ability, sort of. Yeah, it's just power is just an ability that has ontological status.
Okay, so we have an ability with ontological status. And sorry, I'm just trying to backtrack just so that I can kind of funnel the definitions back to where we started. So we have we were talking about cause. So you said that, what was the definition that you offered for what it means for A to cause B?
Yeah, A exercises its power to produce B as an effect.
Okay, so unwrapping the definitions, then we have something like given two complete timelines where they're identical up to point A, then we would say that it means that A causes B if it exercises its causal power. So it does something. We can squabble about the word exercises, but it enacts causal power so that it ends up at B rather than C. Is that the point? So it's in some sense it is governing which of the two possible worlds it's getting to.
In a sense, I mean, potentials like, oh, actually, no. What were we talking about? We're talking about causes, man,
Yeah.
or abilities.
Well, we were talking about causes,
Yeah,
and then we got to powers, and then we got to abilities.
Like B and C would describe two different abilities.
Well, let's say that C is kind of like, well, yeah, okay, sure. So there is one possible world where A and B are, kind of have this like constraint relation between their properties, and there's another possible world where A and C have this constraint relation between properties. Now, okay, so okay, I see what you're saying. So now there's a question that we should ask. If A is compatible with B and A is compatible with C, does that mean that A and C must be compatible with each other, or are identical?
Does that mean A, C are compatible with one another?
Sorry, if A is compatible with B, A is compatible with C, does that mean that B and C are either compatible, or are they identical, or neither?
I mean, I don't think it would necessarily follow whether or not they are compatible or incompatible.
Because what I'm just thinking of is when I'm thinking of like compatibility, like we would say that, let's say that you just dropped an object, right? I think under your view, you would say that the object's height above the ground here caused it to be moving faster lower down there.
Yeah.
And so what I mean is that there's like some physical properties, like its height above the ground and its speed and its mass and all these things, that must be compatible with the way that it is later. And the compatibility relation would be like by the laws of physics or something. And if that's the case, and then it seems like the only way that you get to compatibility is if you can run the computation on the initial sets of properties to get to the final set of properties.
Mm-hmm.
But then that just seems like there can't be more than one outcome.
I think I missed the first part of that. I'm sorry.
So, if by compatibility we mean that like the properties, right as you drop the rock, the properties of the rock right as you drop it, are compatible with the rock at some later point in time, and that's what you mean by, it's compatible with the properties of some later point in time. Then it seems like there's only one way that it could have gone from the properties here to the properties there, and that's just by like turning the crank on the laws of physics, and then you end up with the properties at the end. Doesn't seem like there's more than one option.
Well, I don't see how it only be. I think it can be compatible with many outcomes. I don't see how it wouldn't be compatible with.
I mean, the laws of physics are typically, barring quantum mechanics, which we could talk about, the laws of physics are deterministic, right? So given an income, you get a fixed outcome.
You could have some determinism there. Sure, you could.
But then it just seems like you can't. It just seems like that you can't have any other. It just seems like that you can't have A be compatible with C and A be compatible with. Sorry. It seems that you can't have A be compatible with B and A be compatible with C unless B and C are the same thing.
I mean, sure, you could be a determinist.
But then,
so I just want to
then what is the ability?
2 minutes.
No, you're good. But then what does it mean for there to be like an ability? If unless by an ability is just the way things will go. Ability seems to seems like that there's like it could or it could not, right?
I mean, I don't know. I still think there could be room for counterfactuals, couldn't there?
Not if the constraint, not if the compatibility condition is just like the laws of physics giving you a constraint. Like you could, like there wouldn't be a counterfactual where like you drop the rock and then it gets higher, right? That is a physically impossible counterfactual, right?
I mean, I think we'd probably be talking about something a little higher than physical possibility.
I mean, if we're talking about connecting physical objects via like some sort of constraint, then I think that constraint has to be like a physical constraint.
I mean, when I'm talking about the counterfactuals and the possible worlds.
Well, what modality are you using then?
Modality. So
that might not be the right word.
Counterfactuals?
Are you using like a physical possibility, or are you using like some sort of logical possibility, something in between, like some metaphysical thing?
Yeah, I think I'd say metaphysical.
Okay, well,
I do have to go now.
I know you have to go, and there's a whole question of what metaphysical possibility is, but we can perhaps talk about that at a later time.
Okay, yeah, no, I would like to come on again. So thank you
Yeah,
for
sure.
the position. I enjoy
All right, well, have a good one, man. Take care. All right, I have some super chats to read. So we got $10 from the Nightman Cometh. Thank you so much. Hey, Dr. Blitz, who's your favorite BG3 companion? It's Karlak. Of course it's Karlak. And from Fears Interaction, we have $10. Keep streaming, Science Man. I will do my best. And I should probably advertise the new thing. New thing that I did. So if you guys don't know, I've been talking about this for a while. I finally did it. So I'll bring up another guest in a moment. But I added it's called the Medici tier of on Patreon. So like back in the day, Galileo, like, the scientists, they would have like a rich person who like gave them money so that they could do their research, and then in return the scientist would like name stuff after them, right? So I've added a tier that's like that. We can't really name stuff after people anymore, but what we can do is we can provide acknowledgements in research papers. So if you want to support my research directly rather than supporting me online, and you also have like fuck you money, you should go consider doing that. It's a good way to support a scientist who is not currently getting government handouts. Anyway, let's bring up a guest. Rediscovering, how's it going?
Hey, sweetheart, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Do you believe in God?
I do.
Okay, and which one?
Jesus.
Okay, and what would you say is the most compelling argument you could offer me, or compelling evidence that would convince you that, or that might convince an atheist that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light, the way, the truth, and the light?
Well, now, let's start this off with my basic understanding of what it means to be an atheist, and that is to be fully convinced that we are what we are and there's nothing beyond that. Is that a correct understanding?
There's a lot of background noise. Would it be possible to decrease the background noise?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm sorry about that.
Sure. The way, the truth, and the life, is that it? Did I get it wrong? Shows you how good a Christian I am.
No, you got it. Let me grab my headset real quick. That way, hopefully the noise canceling works better on that than it does on my phone. Now, I'm not fancy. I'm not super educated. I don't know all of the theories and the everythings. I'm just little old me with my understandings and experience. And for the last hour, I've been watching you and listening to you and the conversations that you're having with people. And unless I'm mistaken, you are very much a man who operates on logical understanding and something that you can tangibly see, perceive, and prove. Is that correct?
The first half was right. I can't see air, but I think that we can, still, make compelling arguments that like air is made of molecules, right? So yeah, I think that you can like prove mathematics, and I think that you can do like mathematical proofs, and that you can't see and tangibly experience or anything. So yeah, I would say that
Now,
yes.
do you accept mathematical proofs? Because I did hear you say that you don't necessarily believe in mathematical truths.
No, I absolutely do. But I think that they are concepts. I think that they are things that we construct in our minds. I don't think that they're things that like exist out there in the universe, right?
Okay. And on that, using that same logic and perception, could you also entertain the idea that evolution in and how we know of it presently is also something that is more of a concept than something readily available to prove in real time?
Yeah, so I mean, there is the concept of evolution, which of course, like we come up with all concepts, but that concept points to a thing in reality, right? I mean, like in the same way, like the concept of, what would be a good example here? The concept of a tree, that's a thing that we made up, right? Like we made up the concept of a tree. Like a tree is not like some like fundamental, there's no like fundamental tree. There are like a bunch of different things that we lump them all together and we call it a tree. But that concept points to a real thing in the real world. It points to like that plant and right?
Right.
So in the same way, the concept of evolution was conceived to explain and then describe and predict observed regularities in the world around us. And so, yeah, I mean, in some sense, yes, of course, evolution is conceptual, but we can provide evidence that this concept maps on well to what's actually happening in the world.
Okay. I can appreciate all that. Now, since you are a man who relies on understanding and logic and conceptualizing things, I would like to present God to you in a way that I guarantee most people have not heard, and was something, albeit it was revealed to me in a vision, and I know that that is not conceptually provable nor logically applicable to the current conversation, so I'm not going to base everything off of that, just simply the revelation that I received. Is that acceptable?
Okay.
Okay. So, to my understanding, atheists and anyone outside of the belief in Jesus, Holy Spirit, God the Father, the biggest problem that people have with God is 3 in 1 is the fact that God is 3 in 1. And I'll be honest, I had a really hard time with that myself for a long time, but I just kind of chose not to think about it. I come from a background of severe abuse and witchcraft and other spiritual instances that were not good. And for me to have come to this conclusion is not something that I would have been able to do on my own based off of where I was at mentally.
What conclusion?
That God is 1000% real and all around us.
Why would you think that you wouldn't be able to come to that conclusion, like on your own?
I was against, with every fiber of my being, the idea that I would have to bend the knee to some dude in the sky that claims to be all loving and all knowing, but would let what happened to me happen for 10 years.
So all I'm gonna say is that, like, this is a very typical story. So it just doesn't seem unexpected that you would come to Christianity after having an abusive past. Like that's actually very common.
Right. That part is very common. I agree with that. Which is a form of consistency that could be tracked, just as an aside. What I'm getting at, what I'm trying to explain is the 3 in 1 concept. So we are told that we are made in God's image. And lots of people have lots of opinions about that. God is Father, Son, Holy Spirit. We are body, mind, and spirit. 3 forms of us, 3 forms of God. Jesus and the Father are one. They are also 2. To explain that, let's say that you were somehow able to take your heart out of your chest and it continues to beat and you continue to live. Mm-hmm. That heart is still your heart. That heart is still part of you. However, now it's its own entity while still being part of you. It's just been separated from you. That's what happened with Jesus.
Are you saying that Jesus is part of God?
Yes.
Would you say that the Father is part of God?
Yes.
And the Holy Spirit's a part of God?
Yes.
So this is called partialism, which is heretical and would have gotten you burnt at the stake 400 years ago.
I've done a lot of things that would have gotten that happen to me. That's fine.
I mean, like if you went and you asked a pastor, they would tell you you're wrong.
No, that's fine. I can say that.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. Is your body part of you?
That's a hard question. I would say in some sense my body is me.
Okay. Is your mind a different part of you?
No, I don't think it's different. I think it's part of my body.
Is your body?
I think it's part of my body.
Part of your body, okay.
Yeah.
What about, aside from your instinctual, I guess some people would call it your reptilian brain, your thoughts, your emotions, emotions that science cannot prove where it comes from or why, what the starting point is of that. Yes, we know it's a chemical reaction, but to what beginning they cannot and have not yet proven. So they assume that it is yet another piece of the human that is self-defined away from the mind and the body.
No, the
Would you say
emotion.
that is
I would say
also
the
part of
emotions
you?
are part of the mind.
Okay. Aside from neurological firings, chemical responses, you do have things outside of that, i.e. your
Well, yeah,
thought
there's
patterns.
structure. There's like neuronal structure, sure. That's like kind of more static and less like active, where it involves particular
Right.
neurochemistry. But
So for
that's
example,
that's all part of the body.
right. Say for example, you hear a joke and it makes you laugh. That's not just a chemical reaction. That's an emotional reaction based off of something outside of a mechanical operation happening inside of your mind.
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think that. I think that the cause of me laughing can be traced down to chemicals and structures.
In
right?
what way? How would a chemical make you laugh?
Well, like you could go track what nerves have to fire in order for the laughing action to happen, right? Like that's just muscles working in certain ways.
And what causes?
And you could go look at those nerves, see where they're connected, see what kinds of things can cause them to fire, and then you just can trace it all the way back until you get to some input, which is like coming from your ears, I guess.
Okay, but do you kind of see where I'm going with this?
Not really.
So you have different formats, let's use that word, formats, of you that make up you that are not inherently one is the other, correct?
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, every aspect of me is material and is a part of my body.
Okay, so is your heart your brain?
No, but they're both part of my body.
Okay. They're both part of you, correct?
Yeah,
Are
my
your
body.
fingers your toes?
Again, no, they're both part of the body.
Right, and that's what I'm getting at with the Lord. It's all one thing. He's all one
Okay,
God.
I mean, like, look, if you want to do
has
partialism,
different
that's at
parts.
least consistent. It's just a heresy.
Well, people can call it heresy all they want. It's the truth.
So,
if God
right,
is
so
three
how does
in
this?
one, he has to have different forms.
So why should I believe that
He has the
God
form
is
of the
real in the
Son,
first
He has
place?
the form of the Spirit. Why should you believe that God is real in the first place?
Like, as far as I'm concerned, it's 3 and 0, right? Like, get me to the 1.
Yeah. I'm going to be 100% honest. Honestly, there isn't a single person on this planet that can tell you why you specifically should believe in the Lord. Believing in the Lord is a choice that we make. He put us here to make that choice, specifically to make that choice for or not.
So then why do evangelicals do what they do?
Because that's what he asked us to do. Go out
He
and
asked
spread
you to
the
try
word,
to
tell
convince
about
people?
him. Yeah.
So, but you're not trying to convince me.
I'm giving you things to think about in a way that you specifically are able to receive, because I don't perceive you to be a spiritual person who believes in otherworldly, ethereal things. So, me giving you that argument, I could give you that all day long, but it's not going to do you a single bit of good.
Right.
What I have for you is something that you can mentally facilitate in the same manner that you are seeking information as a scientist.
Which is?
Logic.
How do we go from logic to God being real?
As a scientist, one of your major ways of finding information is through observation.
Sure.
Okay. You can observe the world around you. You can observe nature.
Yep.
You can observe yourself in nature.
Yep.
You can observe that humanity as it is currently, sorry, that's my dryer going off.
You're fine.
as it is currently, is not compatible with nature.
I don't know what you mean by that.
If you look at the way that nature exists, something super simple and crazy as the roads that we drive our cars on,
Mm-hmm.
if left alone long enough, nature will overtake it and get rid of it because
Oh,
it's
so
not
by
compatible.
nature you just mean like non-artificial,
Correct.
like things that humans didn't make.
Right.
Okay. I don't know what you mean by not compatible. I mean, like, there's tension, surely. If that's what you mean, then sure, I agree.
Okay, so we don't live in harmony with nature. We don't use nature as it is readily present in its current format. We have to change it and make it into something that it never was in order for it to be compatible with our current way of life.
Well, I think that depends on the person, but sure.
Okay. If you go back 300 years, 400 years, humankind was a lot more in tune with nature than
I think you have to go back a
are
little bit further
now.
than that. I think you have to go back like 10,000 years.
Well, before massive buildings, before electricity, before roads, before
Well,
plumbing.
roads go back like 3,000 years or something like this, or even longer. Plumbing goes back like 2,000-ish years.
Oh, right, because of the Romans. I forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're very smart. Okay, so let's just go pre-Roman era.
Okay, sure.
Would you agree that humankind as a whole was utilizing and more in tune with nature than we are now?
I mean, I guess. I don't think that they were doing it willingly, but yeah, I guess.
Okay. My point is, if you observe the way that humans have decided to create the reality that we live in, it does not coincide and work well with our given environment that we do not have any control over and have not created.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Humanity as a whole right now,
Mm-hmm.
with all of our buildings and roads and smog and smoke and mining and all of the things that we have created, that we are in control of, do not coexist with the planet and its inherent way of operating that we don't have control over and we cannot make.
Sure. What does this have to do with God, though?
It's kind of my point. When we are in control and we choose to create and be in charge, what we create is incompatible with what we've been given. However, when humans are not in charge and not creating things outside of nature, we're more aligned with the way the planet was originally made. The planet has a specific rhythm. The planet has a specific circular happening. This happens and then this happens because of that. This happens because of that.
Suppose this is all
everywhere you look
true.
in
What does this
nature-
have to do with God?
So nothing that perfectly circular can come without some kind of intelligence behind it. If you look at it logically, if I was to
Right.
speak into the air, I want a laundry basket, it's not going to happen.
Right.
If I was to put the ingredients for a laundry basket in a mixer and hit mix and then pour it out, it's not just going to become a laundry basket. I have to use the intelligence of my mind to physically use the ingredients to make it into a laundry basket. There's
Right.
nothing
But the Earth
observable.
isn't a laundry basket, right?
Correct.
What you're
but
describing
it
is
a prime
artificial things,
example.
not natural things. Natural things, kind of by definition, form naturally.
Can you make a tomato plant by your hand?
Yeah, I just stick a tomato plant or a tomato seed in the ground.
Can you design a tomato seed?
I mean, I couldn't because I'm not a biochemist, but I imagine a biochemist could.
So far, to my knowledge, and if there's anybody in the chat that happens to know otherwise, scientists, biochemists, biologists, nobody has been able, without pulling from some pre-existing material, has been able to create any kind of seed from nothing.
Is that true? Apparently not. Apparently there are such things as synthetic seeds.
But they're made from materials of existing seeds, correct?
I don't know. I don't know.
The point that I'm trying to make
but is the point that you're making, well, life couldn't have come here on its own because, I just don't see why I should believe that.
Life did not come here on its own. Life was made by an intelligent mind.
That's the claim. I don't think that that's true.
It's everything that you see, everything that's been made has been made by someone or something. It didn't just appear. Everything that we see
What about
around
crystals
us,
in a cave? That's just physics happening.
that is physics, but in a specifically directed manner.
So how do
you
you
don't
tell the
just
difference
have
between something
particles-
being made and something not being made?
That's the thing. There's nothing in this world that hasn't been made either by man or
Okay,
by God.
but then I shouldn't. But then there's no way for me to actually test if this claim is true that everything's made. So like I just don't know why I would
There
believe
is.
it.
That's why I was asking about the seed.
Well, yeah. So now you're
you
asking
can
about whether or
make-
not life is made, but suppose for a moment that I could make a tomato seed, then you just say, well, you were an intelligent being, and therefore it required intelligence to like. It wouldn't. It's an irrelevant question, right?
But you're proving the point.
No, my point is that I think that there's pretty good reason to think that life can arise naturally without any sort of divine intervention.
Whether or not there's a lot of conversation and theories that could be had regarding that. But if you were to drill it down to its absolute basic core mechanics, everything has to be made from something.
Well, everything
apple
everything has to be
tree-
made of something, right? It doesn't have to be made by something.
Well, an apple tree has to come from an apple tree. It can't come from an orange tree. If that was the case, you could take a seed from an orange tree if there wasn't
Well, yeah, you're just
intelligent
describing
design involved.
biology.
Right, but if there was an intelligent design involved, you could take an orange tree
How does that follow?
seed, you could take a seed out of an orange and you just randomly grow an apple tree because it would
How does
all be
How does it follow
random.
that? How does it follow that if there's no intelligent designer, that it must be random?
By this example that I gave about the laundry basket. A random example would be me putting all the ingredients into a blender, mixing it up, and pouring it out. And
Things
seeing
can
what
also
happens.
so random is not the opposite of designed, right? Random is the opposite of orderly. And order
Correct.
is not the same as designed.
Order is by default designed.
Prove it.
Look.
I'm looking. It doesn't look designed to me, but it looks orderly.
Order cannot come from nothing. Order has to be given. Order has to be directed.
Why should I believe that?
Okay, let's look at traffic. Traffic is ordered by lights. If you didn't have lights, it would just be pandemonium.
You're
everywhere.
giving me examples
Because
of
everybody
things
wants
that
to be
are
first.
orderly. You're giving me examples of things that are orderly and also are directed. I agree. Order can arise via direction, but I can just point to a crystal in a cave. That's orderly, and there's no evidence of direction there. So it seems like order can arise both directionlessly and directionally.
The crystals are directed by physics.
Sure. Well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that the physics has causal power. I would just say that that's like a description of what's happening. But the point is that like there are some things in the world that are orderly that look like they are not designed, and there are some things in the world that are orderly that look like they are designed. I don't know why I should believe that just because something is orderly that means it's automatically designed.
Have you ever seen anything orderly that wasn't designed?
Yeah, crystals.
Ordered by physics.
I wouldn't say that physics do anything. Physics is a description. And
Physics is a
anyway,
process.
physics isn't designing them, right? Physics is not a mind. Physics is not intelligent.
but
Is
it's
not capable of
directing them.
designing. No, physics is not taking action. Physics is not directing anything. Physics is a description of the things that happen, right?
The way that I am using the term of reference incorrectly. The way that I am using directed is in the same manner that your DNA directs your body to function and grow.
Right. So then, in that sense, physics does not direct the crystal to form, because physics is not a thing that does things. DNA is a thing. It's a molecule, right? DNA is a particular molecule that does things. Physics is not that.
Okay, then I would hazard to guess that my understanding of what exactly physics is at its core is mistaken then, because the way that I have always understood physics to be, the laws of physics can be translated into a set of directions that cannot be refused.
Think of you should think of physics as like a description of the processes that happen. And the processes happen in like a consistent and uniform way. And so the descriptions are consistent and uniform and very simple. But like, it's a description.
So
it would be like saying, like, you know how there's like laws of English grammar? Like, you know, you have to put, I don't know, a comma, you have to separate words in a list by commas, that kind of thing. Like, those laws of English grammar don't cause the commas to be there.
But they direct the flow of the sentence.
No, they don't. They're descriptions of how sentences are. Right? The laws, they're just like ideas. They don't do anything.
Right, but if the laws state that you have to put a comma here in order for your sentence to say this,
Then
wouldn't you
you're
then
putting the
say that
comma
by
there.
default
The
that's a
law
direction?
isn't. You're putting the comma there. The law isn't.
But the law is directing you as to what to do in order to accomplish a thing.
Insofar as you can think of these laws as prescriptive, fine, but you should think of them as descriptive, meaning that like they are a description of the way that English is done, rather than like as like a set of rules. Because physics isn't thought of as a set of rules; it's thought of as like a description of the way the universe is. Like, they're not laws in the sense that like Congress makes laws. They're laws in the sense that like they're always good descriptions.
Okay, so then if the laws of physics are simply descriptions of what's happening, then why is it impossible to break them?
Because what's happening is
Because I've heard it
consistent.
said time and time again is you can't break the laws of physics. You can't
Yeah,
do something
so-
outside of the laws of physics.
So what's meant by that is the universe behaves in a, like, the universe is the same yesterday as it will be tomorrow, right? Basically the same. And so the point is that the way that we describe the universe is uniform. And so if the claim is that the way that we describe, if the claim is that the universe tomorrow, like the sun will rise tomorrow because, you know, it rose yesterday and it rose the day before, then when somebody says you can't break the laws of physics, what they mean is you can't get around the uniformity of nature. There are certain ways that the universe is. Universe is consistent, it's uniform, it's, you know, it always behaves in the same way. And breaking the laws of physics then would be having something happen that is not consistent with our description, with our uniform description of the universe. And so, you know, people use the phrase, you know, can't break the laws of physics as shorthand.
Wouldn't that be then easily translated as rules? There are these set rules that are unbreakable.
I mean, you could describe it that way, but then I think that the word rule comes with a lot of baggage, right? Like it implies that there's some rule breaker, but really you should think of it as like, I mean, just think of it this way. Imagine a universe that didn't have a God, hypothetical, right? Imagine that there was a rock. Well, the rock's not just going to get up and go. And so you might write down a law that says the rock is going to stay there forever on its, unless something touches it, right? And that, you wouldn't say that that's like a rule that somebody wrote down. That's just like your description of the way the rock is being.
Okay.
And so like the laws of physics in our universe are like that. That's probably the best way to think about them.
Okay. Well, that dumbs it down quite a bit then.
Well, that's good. But anyway, where were we?
Intelligent design.
Oh yeah. So I guess my main contention is if you can't point out some property of a thing that like I can reasonably conclude allows me to distinguish between whether or not it was designed or not,
Can
then
you reasonably conclude that when you look at the flow of the planet outside of humanity, that it was just there somehow by itself randomly? Is that something that you can honestly conclude to yourself logically?
we can describe the whole thing naturally using physics. It's the whole business of physics and chemistry and geology and stuff.
Physics is simply an observation, not a cause.
Right. What I'm saying is we can describe how it got that way using the language of physics, right? Like I said, it's a description.
In your opinion, in what you have researched so far and come to the conclusion of, what is your physically present today conclusion provable by action of the original cause?
Sorry, I did not understand that question. Can you repeat it? Or rephrase it?
Let me try to rephrase it a little bit. Sometimes I can get my words a little upside down. In your opinion, with what you've researched, what would you say the original cause was, but only if it is something that you could essentially physically show me in my hands today?
The original cause of what?
All of it.
Well, who's to say that there is one cause for everything? I mean, like, I would say that, like, the cause of me going to the store is me being hungry, but the cause of, you know, the dinosaurs going extinct was the asteroid, right? So, like, different things have different causes. So you got to give me something specific.
But what I'm asking you to do is take it back to what you are convinced of that began everything that you can reasonably prove without the use of theories or concepts.
Oh, I don't think that the universe had a beginning. At least I lean that way.
Well, you
So
are
I don't think
technically
that
correct on that point.
I don't think that there was like a first cause.
Okay, so again, without the use of theories or concepts, what would our original cause be?
That's my point. Like, you're asking me for something that I don't think exists. I don't think that there is like an original cause. I think that I think that everything that happens had some prior cause. Right?
Okay. And what convinces you of that? What proves that to you?
Well, generally, the view is that all of the things that we experience, everything that exists, seems like it has a cause, some sort of material object that gave rise to it. And then those material objects, they would have existed, so then there would have been something that would have given rise to them, and so on and so forth, ad infinitum.
Okay. And so then what, for you, this isn't me trying to argue or get you to agree with anything. I'm genuinely asking about you. What for you eliminates the possibility that God was the original cause?
Well, I think that there are no original causes, right?
Right, but why?
If there are no original causes, then of course God isn't the original cause. There aren't any.
Okay, and what brought you to that point? What brought you to the point of being convinced that there were no original causes if everything has a cause and effect?
Because everything that has a cause seems, the cause of everything itself seems to have a cause. And so it seems like that chain is never over. Everything just has a cause just a little bit further back.
Okay, but if you look at the world that we live in, everything materially has a beginning.
Everything is like
something.
made. Everything is like made of stuff and like forms. I agree. But the thing that it formed it, like, you know, like the crystal formed out of the dripping water, right? And the dripping water got there because it rained one day at 5,000 years ago. And it rained 5,000 years ago because, and you can just keep going back forever. Like, it just doesn't seem like there'd ever be an end to that chain.
Exactly. And so that's why I'm asking, if there's never an end to that, what specifically eliminates God as the intelligent mind behind it all?
So if there wasn't an end to the chain, but God was the end of the chain, then God can't be the end of the chain because there isn't an end of the chain.
Right, but God has no beginning.
I don't see how that's related. If your claim is that God is the end of the causal chain, and I'm claiming that the causal chain doesn't have an end.
I'm saying he's the beginning of the causal chain to our reality.
So then, look, and what I'm saying is that I don't think our reality has a beginning of a causal chain.
So our reality, in your mind, has always existed in one form or another?
There's a technical sense in which I can say yes.
Okay, in a literal sense?
Sure. In that there was never not physical reality.
Okay. So that still doesn't explain to me what specifically caused you to eliminate God from the causal reality that we live in.
Well, if there is no initial cause, and God is supposed to be the initial cause, then it seems like that there is no God that is the initial cause because there is no initial cause.
When you say that the chain never has a beginning point, I am superimposing is not the right word. I am layering that over the top of the fact that you are onto something. You are correct in that our reality, which came from God, who has no beginning. So in a technical sense, you are correct. There is no beginning because the God who created all does not have a beginning. And to say that, well, that's impossible, everything has a beginning, would then therefore refute everything that you just said that you believe, because you believe that there was no beginning, it's just always been. In the same vein that God has no beginning, he's always been, and he is the director and authority of the reality that we live in today.
Yeah, so the distinction here is that from all of our observations, anything that has a cause has a material cause, right? Like when, you know, like what's the cause of, I don't know, the lake being full? Well, the rain, and the rain is a physical thing. So it seems like nowhere in the chain can you end up at a non-physical cause.
Except for intelligent design.
I don't think that our universe is intelligently designed.
What makes you think that?
It just doesn't seem like, unless you can give me like evidence that it is, why would I believe it?
Well, I could ask you the same to give me evidence that it's not.
I mean, I look around me and I see some things that are clearly intelligently designed, like iPhones, and some things that are not clearly intelligently designed, like crystals. There's no like
Well, as
evidence that
someone
the
who
crystals.
specializes-
There's no evidence that the crystals were intelligently designed. There is evidence that the phones were intelligently designed, right?
Right, and a geologist would tell you the opposite. There is
No, they
mounds and
wouldn't.
mounds of evidence that a crystal was intelligently designed.
No, they wouldn't. They would tell.
would.
They would.
I've
They would
talked to
describe.
several of them.
They would describe to you the natural process by which the crystal formed, and I say natural, not intelligent.
Right, but it's following a specific design framework that was put into place by something.
No, but that's what you see. You're putting in the design framework by hand. It's not there in the evidence.
But it is evident that there is a design framework.
No. There is uniformity of nature. You're the one calling it a design framework.
Design framework.
Those are not the same thing.
Okay, so when a crystal is formed,
Mm-hmm.
it has to be under a specific circumstance. It can't form any other way. It has to be under a specific circumstance.
Sure.
That is a design framework.
How is that a
Okay,
design framework
just
and not
like-
just a uniformity of nature?
The same could be said for your iPhone. Your iPhone has to be
The
made
reason
under a certain
the
subset
reason
of
why we
directed-
know the iPhones are designed is because we can go to the iPhone factory and we can see them being designed. We have evidence that they're
You can go to
designed.
the
We
human
don't.
factory.
We don't have evidence that crystals are designed.
If something can only be created under a certain set specific criterion, is that not the very definition of a design?
I don't think so.
What is your definition of design?
What would be a good definition of design? I would say that something is designed if it has a designer. How about that?
And you're proving my point, sweetheart. It does.
Right, but I don't think that crystals have a designer. So unless you can provide evidence of the designer, then how are you going to get to the point that how are you going to prove? Sorry?
What is a design?
A design is something that was designed by a designer.
Dumb it down further for me. What specifically is a design and why is it?
You could say it's like a structure that was built with intent on purpose.
Okay, so let's say floor plans for a house. They were designed by an architect
Yep.
for the construction crew to follow and create an end result. But that end result isn't going to happen unless the design is followed to the T, correct?
Yeah, sure.
Same with a crystal.
Well, but the
That
point
crystal
is
not
the
going to happen if
definition.
it doesn't happen.
Sure, but you need to demonstrate intent.
Intent is inherent in the design.
That's the thing that you have to prove, right? Doesn't look intentional to me.
That's the thing that proves itself.
How does intent
You
prove
can't
itself?
You can't have something restricted to a specific set of criterion without something directing that specific set.
Why not?
Show me something that's not.
A crystal.
I feel like we're going around in circles here.
Yeah, and the point is that you keep saying, well, a crystal is designed, and how do you know a crystal is designed? Well, because it has certain properties, and why do those properties mean it's designed? Because, well, if it has those properties, then it is designed. But like, and then it's like, how do you know that just because it has those properties, that means it's designed? And that's where we're stuck. And it's because you can't justify it. There's not really a way to justify. Without already assuming God exists, there's not a way to justify the belief that a crystal is designed.
But we can both agree that it follows a specific set of criterion in order to be.
Well, yeah, there are certain conditions required for it to exist, sure. I don't see how that has anything to do with design, though.
You can't get something else out of those specific criterion, correct?
I mean, I guess you could. If like, well, if the criterion are identical, I suppose not. But that's just,
Okay.
The uniformity of nature again.
Exactly. That's my point that I'm trying to make and failing miserably, obviously.
I appreciate the humility.
My point is, If something must be a certain way in order to happen, and that order cannot create anything outside of that one thing, then that is by default a design that is being followed in order to create that thing, much the same way that humans design something, and from that design comes a specific thing that we've made. We can't.
How does it
make
follow that
something
specific
else.
conditions being required for something means that it's designed? How does that follow?
Because that's the definition of a design, sweetheart.
Design is not.
The definition of a design
Look,
is
if that's what you mean by
a
design, then and not like something within something that was produced with intention or something like that, then sure. But then I'm gonna say, okay, it's designed. How do you know that? What does that have to do with a God existing?
Can an iPhone design itself?
Well, the definition of design, your definition of design doesn't require intent. It doesn't require a maker. It just requires a thing being a certain way and only that way.
Right, but who made the design?
The design,
design can't just
the
happen.
definition of design that you gave is totally compatible with a lack of a designer. It doesn't require intent. Which is why I gave a definition that requires intent, so that, you know, it's used in the traditional way.
I'm trying to figure out where I'm going sideways with what I'm trying to say, because in the example of your example, the iPhone, that is a design created with intent to create an iPhone.
Yep.
The same of which can be said if you're willing to entertain the idea of a God or an intelligent mind behind the design. The things of nature follow a preset format in order to be.
I'm sorry, one sec. Somebody's at the door. One sec.
Can you go turn the AC on, baby? Go.
Sorry about that. It was a package.
No, you're fine.
I'm back. Right. Sorry. We've been going in a circle for a while, and I should probably end the live because it's about that time anyway.
Yeah.
But thank you for being here, Rediscovering. I do appreciate it.
Really, in all honesty, the entire reason that I came on was simply to give an explanation for the 3-in-1. And that,
Fair enough.
I know we went way off of that, but if nothing else, I really just wanted to explain the 3-in-1. And
look, if you want to do partialism, that's fine. Like, I don't think that I don't think that there's a problem with that. It's just not what Christianity teaches, right?
That's fine. I don't ascribe to any one particular religion. I ascribe to what the Bible says and what I've learned from it.
Fair enough. All right, I'm gonna let you go, but thank you so much for being here. All right, y'all. I am gonna end the live. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of miserable right now. So I'm gonna go make myself some coffee, eat some food. Let me make sure I read some super chats before I go. Right, we have $20 from I Am the Big Cheese. Thank you so much. 1, all produce is man-made. Cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, same plant. The citrus fruit, man-made. 2, harmony with nature doesn't exist. Ecosystems, habitats are in constant flux and can fall apart without humans. That's a good point. Yeah, so thank you guys so much. And $5 from I Am the Big Cheese again. I'm undecided about the Goldilocks zone. I'm open to alien life in vastly different conditions. What are your thoughts? The Goldilocks zone is probably bigger than we think it is, but there's definitely a place where life probably can't exist. Right? Can't form. Anyway, y'all, I'm going to end the live. But thank you guys so much for being here, and I will see you guys on Sunday, probably. If not, then maybe Monday. Take care, everybody.